All right, welcome fellow explorers. Today we are heading out on a virtual expedition, you and I, across the incredible landscapes of India. This is the land of just amazing geographical diversity, so let's get right into it.
We're going to start our journey from the absolute best viewpoint you can get, space. Back in 1984, India's very first astronaut, Rakesh Sharma, was asked by the Prime Minister how India looked from up there. And his answer? It was just beautiful. Sade Jahan se acha. Better than the whole world. Wow, that really sets the stage for what we're about to see, doesn't it?
And this is the view that he was talking about. From way up in orbit, you can see this massive, beautiful, snow-capped barrier just curving across the top of the country. This is where our expedition really kicks off, the mighty Himalayas.
Okay, so to really get what's happening on the ground, we've got to get the big picture first. So let's zoom out for a second and understand where India fits into the world.
You see, India isn't just a country. It's really the heart of this whole region that's so unique it's called the Indian subcontinent. It's cut off from the rest of Asia by these huge natural walls, like the Himalayas, which gives it this really distinct character.
So as we do our flyover of this amazing place, you can basically break it down into these 5 major zones. And believe me, each one has a totally different story to tell. We're going to start with the one that really defines the whole subcontinent, that great mountain zone.
So you have to wonder, right? How did the world's tallest mountains even get here? Well, the story is pretty dramatic. It's like this super slow-motion collision that's been happening for millions and millions of years.
A long time ago, the chunk of land that we now call India was actually an island, just drifting north. Then, around 50 million years ago, it started this epic collision with the Eurasian plate. And the crazy part? That process is still happening today. Now, when 2 gigantic pieces of land smash into each other, the ground that's stuck in the middle has nowhere to go but up. The best way to picture it is to think about pushing a carpet from one end. It just buckles and folds, right? That's pretty much exactly what happened here, creating the biggest mountain range on the entire planet. And this photo just perfectly shows the result of that massive geological event. You can literally see the wrinkles in these rock formations. These folded layers right here are proof of the unbelievable tectonic forces that shoved them towards the sky. And here's what's so wild. The story isn't over. Not by a long shot. That collision is still going on right now, pushing the Himalayas higher by about 5 millimeters every single year. These mountains are literally still growing as we speak. Okay, so our expedition is now taking us down into the mountains themselves. And it's important to know they're not just one big range. Nope, it's actually 3 separate parallel ranges, and each one has its own kind of personality. So first, you have the Himadri, also called the Greater Himalayas. These are the highest, most rugged ones, home to the big guys like Mount Everest. Just south of that, you've got the Himachal, or the Lower Himalayas. The climate's a bit milder there, and that's where you find famous hill stations like Shimla. And then finally, you get to the Shivalik foothills, the lowest range, which is covered in these dense forests and is just packed with wildlife.
And yeah, speaking of wildlife, these mountains are anything but empty. Even with the tough conditions, they're a sanctuary for some really rare and beautiful animals that are perfectly adapted to the high altitudes, like the famous and very elusive snow leopard.
But these mountains are so much more than just rock and ice. They're actually a life source for hundreds of millions of people all across Asia.
In fact, they have this nickname, the Water Tower of Asia, and it's for a really good reason. They basically act as this enormous frozen reservoir.
Every single summer, the snow and the glaciers on these high peaks start to melt, and that meltwater feeds 3 of Asia's most powerful rivers, the Ganga, the Indus, and the Brahmaputra. This water is absolutely critical for drinking, for farming, and for industry for millions upon millions of people downstream. And the power of all this water is just immense. As it comes rushing down the mountains in these powerful rivers and waterfalls, that energy is captured by hydroelectric dams. And that's what generates clean electricity, powering homes and entire cities. And it's just fascinating to see how life adapts to this environment. It's not just the animals, right? Human culture does too. You can see it in the traditional architecture. The houses are built from local materials, and they're designed specifically to handle the cold and the really challenging mountain terrain.
Okay, now let's pull our view back from the Himalayas for a moment, just to see how they fit into the bigger picture. Because south of these huge mountains, you find a land of incredible contrasts.
So right below the mountains are the huge northern plains.
These were formed by all that rich silt dropped by those life-giving rivers we talked about. This is India's farming heartland, and it's one of the most densely populated places on the planet. Then, over to the west, that gives way to the Great Indian Desert. And as you keep going south, the whole landscape changes again into the ancient Peninsular Plateau, this massive triangular highland that's super rich in minerals.
And all of that brings us to one of India's most defining features. The whole southern part of the country is a classic peninsula, jutting right out into the ocean. This gives it a huge and super important coastline, with the Arabian Sea on the west and the Bay of Bengal on the east. And then you've got India's island chains out in those seas, which really completes the picture of just how varied this nation's geography is.
So, there you have it. We've journeyed from the edge of space down to the world's highest peaks. We've followed life-giving rivers all the way across fertile plains, and we've explored an ancient southern plateau that reaches right down to the sea. We've seen how a collision between continents millions of years ago created this incredible land of contrasts.
So now it's your turn to be the explorer. What's your next stop on this subcontinent? If you were to send a postcard from your own adventure in India, which one of these amazing regions would it be from? What kind of wonders would you write about? The exploration is all yours.